US men's national team lost a third straight match on Saturday when they were defeated by 2-1 by Turkey. International friendly action in East Hartford. It adds to the disappointing losses to Panama and Mexico in the Nations League. But this is what Mauricio Pochettino had to say after the game. He said the performance was good. We faced a team like Turkey, which is a very good team, with the experienced players at the top. This group of players, after playing together for the first time, I think we started the game so well. We played 20 minutes at a high level. We did very good things, very good things. Well, here's Tyler Adams taking more positives from the game, saying, yeah, really exciting. I think for the first time probably in the past few camps, we're going to take a lot more positives away than negatives. So a good building block for a lot of those guys. A lot of them, it's their first opposition from outside of CONCACAF, which is good experience for a lot of them. The game is just a little bit different, but they played excellent tonight. Now, those two were a lot more positive than our panel were yesterday, Jurgen. So I wonder where your positivity levels are on what we've seen from the US men's national team in this game and the ones before it.
Well, it's not easy for Mauricio Pochettino, to be honest, because he never knows who he actually gets into his camp. The couple of weeks prior to getting his group of players together. And also the fans don't know. So you don't know, okay, what phase do we see, going into these friendly games and then going into the Gold Cup. And then, obviously, how can you build out of this number of players, how can you build then the blocks, towards the World Cup next summer. And I think for Mauricio right now, it's a huge learning curve. It's getting the experience, how to kind of put things together out of the blue, because you're missing this one, you're missing that one, and you're trying to get, absolutely, he's trying to grab on the positives and is not looking too much on the result right now. If you lose then friendly games, which is right, but at the end of the day, also the fan goes to the stadium and wants to win the game. So there's so many little pieces floating around that he needs to grab and put them together. And it's not easy for him.
Jurgen, what do you think of Pochettino's comments about players who need to be desperate to play for their national teams, like we see with other countries? That's something he said about these players, that they need to be desperate to play for their sides.
Yeah, I mean that's what we always think should be. The culture that he's coming from obviously is another notch on identity with the national team. Argentina, they die for their national team. Did you see Messi the last couple of years missing one game at this national team? He will never miss a game. Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't miss a game. And so these kind of nations where obviously Mauricio is coming from, they think that way, and we think that way because that's our background. The background in the United States is a bit of a different one. There is maybe not the highest priority into a Gold Cup, into winning a Gold Cup, okay? Because the Gold Cup traditionally, was always shared by Mexico and the United States, and here and there maybe a Canadian a special side can win the trophy as well. But for us, coming from a European background or South American background, the Copa America is humongous, and the European Championship is humongous, and then we want to win obviously a World Cup if possible. So I totally understand Mauricio's comments on that one, because he wants to see his players being desperate, absolutely desperate to join the national team and to give everything they have for their national team, because that's how he grew up, and therefore I absolutely understand it.
Jurgen, you mentioned about some of the players not coming to camp, and obviously, Stevie, I heard you with Dan having that back and forth over how can he know his best 11 right now? He hasn't got every player coming to camp all the time. Did you ever have that problem when you were managing the US, Jurgen, that the players not coming to camp?
Yeah, I mean, you have those problems. It depends then on the time, and it depends on the competition. As I said, that's why I mentioned the Gold Cup. The Gold Cup is not seen by the players that play in Europe as the most attractive trophy to win. That's just fact, For the players that are in Europe, and now the majority of the players are in Europe, a Copa America, they would be here in a heartbeat. They would come right away. The Gold Cup, you kind of see it every 2 years. in one competition, you have almost all the Europeans in there. In the next competition of the Gold Cup 2 years later, then you have mostly the MLS-based players, you know. So how do you want to grow then this kind of a feeling within the players to say, you know what, you got to come no matter what. This is the most important trophy in the world. Like Cristiano Ronaldo showed today, like almost the Nations League was the most important trophy for him to win. But it means the world really to Cristiano Ronaldo, and that's what the Gold Cup should do as well to the American players. But the reality is it doesn't do that. You know, they are focused or on their club teams, maybe playing in the FIFA Club World Cup from next week on starting, or obviously their focus lies in next year's World Cup on home soil. So to sell this whole Gold Cup or to sell certain camps where the US national team comes together is not easy for a manager. Now, I had that issue with the famous January camp where you invite the top players, you know, throughout MLS to give them possibly 2 friendly games with mainly Central American countries. And but you got to shoot them up from 0 to 100 within 4 weeks to play 2 decent national team games. But is that what the players really want? No, absolutely not. Maybe for the ones that never were part of the US national team, so maybe they can show themselves to the coaching staff and working their way into that national team group. But in reality, they don't want to do that at the January camp. But they have to because there are two games on the line. So there are a lot of kind of little pieces there that obviously Mauricio now works through it, works with his coaching staff through those issues. And his communication, obviously, with the club teams, mainly in Europe, is crucial. Then hopefully we get them as excited and as fresh as possible in the months leading into the World Cup.
It's tough, Stevie, for Pochettino in that sense. Like, what can he do about it?
Nothing. Can't do a thing. You know, it's absolutely 100% culture, and you know these players who are now professionals now, as youngsters growing up, know that the Gold Cup doesn't mean an awful lot. So this is not just all of a sudden the Gold Cup doesn't mean anything, and to try and change that culture in this country, I think is impossible. The Gold Cup will never ever be anything other than looked upon as a chance for others who might not get in the proper US team to have an opportunity. And that's how everybody grows up in this country, looking at the Gold Cup. So they shouldn't be really surprised. And Poch, he's got his back against the wall because there's nothing he can do personally to change it. Yes, he can send a message that he wants people there. Yes, he can send a message that you should treat it as a World Cup or Copa or whatever it is. But the truth is, it doesn't carry the same weight. And the players, as I said, they grow up knowing that the Gold Cup doesn't really matter.
There is something fundamentally wrong for players in this national team to value Copa America, a tournament in which, let me just tell you, you don't belong in Copa America. It's not your competition. You're merely invited to Copa America. It's a CONMEBOL tournament. And I'll say that, I've said that many times, and I'll say it again. Something fundamentally wrong to think that Copa America, for them, for the United States, is more important than Gold Cup. Gold Cup should be their regional competition of choice and of dominance. They should be dominating Gold Cup. They should be winning Gold Cup. That should be the #1 goal. It should be. You dominate your region. And once you dominate your region, you can think about the potential of maybe playing an important role in the World Cup. But until you dominate your region, you're not dominating at the World Cup. You're not skipping steps. This is not how it works. This is not how it works. So for me, it's disappointing that players think that they're above their most important regional competition. That in itself is disappointing. And the other thing I would say is, we're talking about the World Cup being a year from now. Yeah, and on the calendar, it's a year from now. But it is not practically for the national team a year from now. There are very limited opportunities for Mauricio Pochettino to work with his team in preparation for the World Cup. One of those opportunities would have been in a tournament setting in the Gold Cup. So this is a wasted chance for this national team and for this national team players to come together and generate some sort of positive momentum going forward leading to the World Cup.
How hard is it to change this culture, though, with these players, Jurgen, and with these points that the two guys have just brought up here?
Well, it's the way, as Stevie said, and Alejandro knows, it's the way they were brought up. You know, if the way they were brought up, you know, is not to give, you know, this extreme focus and this feeling for the Gold Cup that it's the most important trophy to win first and foremost, then it's difficult to change it over time. Obviously, everybody dreams about the World Cup, you know, and everybody knows that the real competition in the Americas is the Copa America, where you don't belong to, as Alejandro said, because it's CONMEBOL, it's South America. But if you get a chance to play in a Copa America, obviously this is the biggest learning process that you can take your team through, because it's just fantastic teams down in South America. So the juggle with the Gold Cup just never really rose to a way that the players, or probably also the fans, really bought into it, you know. So they're waiting for the Copa America, maybe with the US or Mexico to participate in, and especially they're waiting every 4 years then for the World Cup to show the real face of this US national team.